All right, I will call this meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. We have one item on the agenda, that is the continuation of the variance hearing for 20 October Lane. Before we get started, did everybody take a site visit?
I missed my chance, sorry.
No, that's
Monday
okay.
ended up crazy, so.
I didn't either, but I just felt, from the last meeting, from the documents and hearing everything, I felt that I, had enough information.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, the site visits are never required, so. For those of you who did go on site visits, any reactions?
It's a tough lot. There's limited space, so they are trying to do their best to do what needs to be done there.
Is what I expected. The thing I learned more than anything else is where the trees are. Because looking at Google Earth or any of those, it's always got covered with trees, and I try to get a shot of previous years with no trees or no leaves, and there's terrible shots of earlier photographs from the satellite. So, but I also I got a copy of from the Board of Health of where the septic system is, and there's a drawing of it, but the bigger drawing is not correct. There's an as-built that was submitted a few days later, and their septic tank is about 62.5 feet from their house, not as indicated on the original plan. I walked all around. He's got the stone wall around the property, very nice. I don't know what they used before they built the house there, but it was a field or something probably.
Yeah.
But and also Kathy Safara produced a memo, and did you get a copy of that memo?
I did get a copy of that memo.
And it basically says that most of your lot is buildable, including where the septic system is and everything. The only thing requirement is you stay 10 feet away from the septic tank and the beach field, 10 feet away. But all that other field, all is basically the west side of your property. All that is buildable. So your barn can go there.
So it's buildable, but there's all the trees that they won't let us get trees.
They will,
Because we asked
if you
them.
read the memo, within 100 feet, the only thing they're going to require is that during the construction that you contain runoff
Silt.
and silt. Other than that, there's nothing that stops you from building a house or shed or barn or anything in that area. So that's all available. So you have two areas available for your barn. You have that entire west side of the property, which is back to the back of your house, and on your driveway on the right coming in, and your present yard in front of the house. And the other thing is, if you read the Mass General Law, it says what a variance is required for a variance, and you don't meet any of the requirements for that. So I don't think we can give you a variance. I can't vote for it anyway. It's just the way it is.
I'm sure we'll get more done. I'd love to hear more detail. I don't know if that's appropriate now, David, or if you want to do that later.
No. I mean, I mean, this is, this is more of a discussion than anything else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you have anything to say in response, or if you do, you don't have to. Just,
I mean, you've seen the property. I don't know where it's buildable, because there's no there's no way to build anything. I mean, there's some of trees by the pond or the lake or the water, and the intent is not to cut more trees. It's to build a building where there's no trees. I mean, so I understand that it's technically or bigger, it's buildable, but this is against all the principle of having conservation. Cut all the trees to build a building, so we cannot have a variance where
You have plenty of room on that property to put on that side where the septic tank is and everything, to put a barn and not even come close to trees. The major problem you have is just a 35-foot setback from the pond that's required by our zoning bylaw, or the Wetlands Protection Act bylaw that we have.
Yeah, I saw Kathy's email,
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna argue like, cause that's her job.
Yeah.
fine. I would argue actually aesthetically, that would be the ugliest option possible,
Well,
like
okay,
drive
that's-
in and
That's
have a
completely up
lawn.
to you.
Yeah, so I mean, I think just, it would totally destroy the aesthetics of the place. Like to come in and have a lake in the house and then the barn tucked behind it makes a lot more sense.
Mhm.
So that's
So where are you, I'm just trying to picture this. Where are you suggesting?
the front yard with a big open
I'm
field
not
in
even
front.
sure, like the septic is pretty.
Like when you come down the driveway?
This whole area here
You can't go
is
on.
available for building. The septic, the leach field's over here, the septic tank is down here. So all this area, in fact, even right in this area here,
Sorry.
your leach field's over here someplace, and your tank, your septic tank is in the.
Yeah, it comes out of this corner of the
Yeah,
house
right.
into a tank here and
Right.
then leaches
This-
down to the,
This whole
Yeah.
area here,
Yeah.
this area over here, this area over here is all available for building. Now, there may be some terrain issues, but that's.
yeah, we have water that comes into about here though.
It shows you right here. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, but there's a drop off at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
It is not, it is not even there.
This is pretty flat. Anyway,
I'd be curious to know what the cost would be to have to clear that area though.
there's no trees there.
Anyway, other comments, thoughts?
Okay.
Basically, from what I've seen, I do agree with, I mean, I don't see that it meets the three criteria, for variance. Now, if, conservation was to come back and basically say they couldn't build in that area because of, conservation bylaws or requirements, then that might be a different conversation. But right now, it sounds like, it sounds like there's a good chance something would get approved. So the need for a variance, just in my opinion, isn't there.
Lenny?
Are you asking for my opinion?
Sure, yeah, or
Oh, I thought
questions
you-
or
I thought you
comments,
called
or
my
yeah,
name.
yeah, no, this is a chance to chat.
Yeah, I mean, as far as setbacks, in terms of where they want to build, there's certainly sufficient setbacks. I don't think that's in dispute. I think the issue, we're discussing now is a question of whether they need a variance because there's a hardship. And, it just seems, that if they have to cut trees, well, I mean, I would call that kind of a hardship of sorts, I think I don't think we would want to see trees, taken down unnecessarily. I think that figures into, to the configuration of the land, if it's treed. I still think that, there's the irregularity of the lot and the topography and the shape of it still, creates, an issue of hardship topographically.
David, have we addressed the rear line versus the sideline? Cause that.
No.
Okay, cause that's like,
You need to address that too.
this is just all like not even worth discussing if we set aside it's a sideline, I
No,
guess,
that's absolutely true.
time wise.
What do folks think?
Where you have the wood fence now, is that's the one we're really talking about. That's the rear sideline for that property.
Well, we don't have one designated, that's the challenge.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the building inspector kind of indicated that would be a good one, and I kind of agree with him.
Well, yeah, I don't think he indicated that would be a good one. I think he indicated that he thought they were both rear
Okay.
lines. problem I have with that is that, like, based on sort of, if you were to draw a line straight down from the cul-de-sac, like, you hit, I'm sorry, I'm gonna use, I'm gonna use Michael's sort of shorthand, like, yeah, do you mind actually? Pretty easy to see it. Like, you hit the red line. Like, you don't hit the blue. I'm not saying that the blue is a traditional side yard line.
Nothing's traditional.
And don't forget where the blue line is on the other side. That's the backyard for the abutting property. In fact, all along there is a backyard for all the properties along there.
Yeah, that's not really
That's
relevant.
immaterial.
Yeah,
Well,
Because that's
how the
not,
other properties are set up doesn't make a difference. It's where the road is.
that's right, the definition of the orientation to the
Can you
street.
zoom- Oh, you don't, oh, yeah.
I just had a clip, but I can go back and.
Yeah, do you mind, can you do the whole?
It's right here.
There it is. To be honest, as I look at the map myself, it looks like more the, really what's the driveway's here, it really ends up at the point. Driveway's right here, and it's right in line with the point. And it's just-
Yeah, but see, I guess I have a problem using the driveway. I mean, that, just because it's, you know.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
not, basically, the driveway is the property line in front there, so, you know, this whole aisle right here, it basically straight to the point. So basically all this right here, because here's a road, and it goes right here. So it doesn't really favor either one.
Well, except the way I see your finger drawing, I see it on the red, not the blue. That like.
Well, I have terrible eyesight, so it could be.
You know, it's essentially, because the way I'm seeing it is almost like following this line right here, takes you like, I'm sorry, I just used the touch and I didn't mean to.
Yeah, it depends if you go on the left of the driveway, or the right of the driveway, or on the middle of the driveway. On the right, it's gonna be right at the corner. Anything else is on the red line, not on the blue line. I mean, it's tiny, but if you get a straight line, we tried it, and we end up on the left of the corner, so on the red line. Which was our initial understanding, that's why we did the whole plan and hired the contractor and everything. And from there, that's why we initially placed the barn with the 20-foot setback, thinking that was the sideline. After that, when we learned that was a backline, we tried to move it, but the best we could move it without cutting any trees was 25 feet, so that's why we requested this variance. But if it's not considered a backline, then there's the 20 feet setback and well within any setback. And so I was trying to read on the bylaws, like, what's the intent of the setback? I don't think like against any of the intent of the setback, like having space with the neighbors and always the other.
Safety.
That's, yeah. So it's not like we're building on top of another building or anything.
I'd like to read what Frank said about the property lines. I discussed the lot lines on 20 October with the land surveyor, and the plot plan shows what makes sense to me. And that's when the plot plan showed that, their plan showed that the rear lot property line. So Frank is saying that is the rear property line as far as he's concerned.
The entire line is the property line?
The whole bottom line, that blue
The
line.
blue line is his impression,
Right.
that's about next.
You can read it and have your own
Yeah,
interpretation.
Well, made sense to him. It doesn't seem like a straight, like a clear decision either, but we can.
It was definitely not black and white when we spoke, like, it wasn't clear when he came. Cause I don't think it's a clear decision. That's not,
In fact, it brings up the issue for both of them, rear property line.
So I think conceptually, I don't have a problem saying that a property could have two rear lines. I mean, if you think about it from, if it was a hexagon or like a upside down pentagon or something like that, I think conceptually, yeah, it's absolutely possible to have multiple.
Oh, it's only one line. It's just got multiple angles in it.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so conceptually, yeah, no, I think that's possible. I mean, it's not conceptually possible to have two front lines. I think
Did you check all the court cases?
I guess, no, I mean, I did, I mean, I'm telling you, it was, I mean, the only definitions I've ever found, one was in a tenement statute, so take that for what it's worth. And there are other zoning bylaws in other towns, and they all basically say it's the furthest point from the road, which conceptually sounds so simple. It's like, well, that makes sense, but I did see one other town zoning decision where, unfortunately, they were faced with the exact same sort of problem, and it doesn't really, like, all it says is that they had a substantial discussion about it, and there's a lot of back and forth. I'm going, thanks a lot. That provides us no guidance
So
whatsoever.
far, we're on the same page, right?
Yeah.
So let's figure out how to get to
Yeah.
a conclusion.
so I think that's where we were going. Sorry, Dad, did you want to finish?
No, please continue.
That's where we kind of said, all right, what is the sideline versus what is the purpose? And when you look at what the purpose of it is, it's for things like privacy and safety and things like that. And I don't think we're posing any threat to any of the purposes of a larger setback or rear line. So by calling it a rear line, we're just making the setback bigger. I mean, I think we're talking in a circle, unfortunately.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the fact too that with a cul-de-sac, the question is like, off what point do you take it, which is like sort of further, does it? I mean, ultimately, I think almost the fairest way to do it is you take literally the center of the circle. And I think if you take the center of the circle, and you go straight down, like, it's not in the middle, but it's
right on the edge of it.
Well, that's,
I think if you take the center of the circle, it ends up sort of like right there, near the corner, but slightly off.
That'd be a contentious conversation, I think.
I mean, you're eyeballing it. Like, don't get me wrong,
now, we do have a bylaw requirement for hammerhead lots. Your lot's not big enough, but it has 40-foot setbacks all the way around it.
Right? It's limiting my options there.
But you'd have to add a few feet to do that.
So if it doesn't make any difference, I would almost make a motion here that we go ahead and approve the entire line as the back line of that property.
Or just say we don't have a back line.
Well, you have to.
Well, you gotta have a back line because then you have an offset. So where do you get your setbacks from?
We call the other one the back line.
No, I'm saying that line,
Okay.
that L
Yeah.
line
Okay.
is the back line of the property.
Okay.
That would be my opinion.
And that's for purpose of setback for where they want to build. In other words, have some setback.
That would be their
Yeah, we have a basis point, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, see your
That
point.
would be the rear yard
See your point on that.
line.
And as
So
far as,
they would need a variance.
Correct.
Okay.
and you can have a rear back line that's at an angle, I don't think
Oh, yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
We discussed it last time. So.
All right, well, did you make a motion or you?
I will make a motion that we accept the entire line. I don't know if we need to establish the points, but that line that runs across northwesterly and that one. Is it northwesterly? And the bottom one, that one continuous line is the end line of the property,
Rear property line.
rear property line, excuse me.
Rear yard line.
What's the appropriate term, Michael?
Rear yard line.
So I make a motion that
The
the rear yard line of that
It's
property.
either property or yard, it goes back and forth.
Okay.
All right. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Just to clarify before I take this. I guess we just need to be a majority on this, correct? Doesn't need to be, yes, because it's not for national education, okay. All right, all in favor of, the motion that both lines as indicated in the discussion should be considered the rear property line, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so at 4-1, the back line, the angled lines, I will describe them, or as I'll just easily say, the red and blue lines as indicated on the memo that's in our packet, we'll consider the rear line, thus requiring variance. All right, more discussion on the question of variance then. So let me put it this way. So in order to get a variance, one of the factors that a little enforcement of the rules would involve some sort of substantial hardship, financial or otherwise. So I'll give the applicant the opportunity to make the pitch for why would this be a substantial hardship.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get back into, I think what you said last time. I mean, we put a lot of
It's nothing.
time, and money, frankly, into this project already, because we didn't anticipate this. Neither did either contractor who's already kind of penciled out the project for us, two of them. No one anticipated this. So, I mean, we've definitely, gone down that path and prepared the survey, and like I said, I'm already paying interest on a loan to do this. So I'm losing all my interest. If I have to start another alternative site on my property, which frankly I really don't think is possible, that's a very expensive endeavor for us. Other hardship is you could propose we live without it. I don't think that's a nice option either. This is going to consolidate everything for those of you who came on site, what we have into one place. We have, the need for a 3-car garage, not to be my 2 cars plus my yard tools kind of space right now. Did you have something to?
No, I mean,
What else did we have on
we spend, this one time,
the architectural drawings?
You've seen the place, it's already pretty much ready to build the barn as opposed to all the other places where there would be trees and clearing. That's what would make the most sense. After that, we can put it in front of the house or like.
But yeah, I was gonna say, to be clear, like just in case I wasn't explicit enough, a 40-foot setback will make this impossible. We can't put the barn like up against that rock wall. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Technically we can, but it's just that
it doesn't
defeat
make
the
sense.
purpose of the whole landscaping and the way the yard is made.
Walk me through that.
Through why it would become impossible. So you saw it on site where it is. So it would be shifted toward the house almost 15 more feet. So it's going to be kind of parked up behind the rock wall. And that doesn't mention overhangs, access. I mean,
the point is to have the usable space in front of the barn, but behind the barn you don't see anything. So we have like coyotes and stuff. For the animals, it doesn't make sense to have anything behind the barn, which would be the 40 feet setback. It's behind the building and between the building and the fence, right by the woods. So the idea of moving it closer to the sideline, backline, was to have the usable space in front of the building, not in the back, and also makes it prettier. There's the trees. You've seen this, like one big tree that definitely are going to have to be cut. Plus all the cherry trees are going to be like, and the wall are going to be on top of the entrance of the building. It's just not. And technically it's possible. It's just not pretty.
I have to giggle because I actually cut down a few things to make that spot where it is now. And the one tree I kept is the one that's gonna just like right on top of it if we move it in for the setback. So it's like the one that I kept is, I don't know.
Can you remind us where the sinkholes are?
Yeah, you wanna look at the map or?
Yeah.
Maybe you can do the, would you mind doing the photo? Because the photo will kind of,
From your application.
yeah, do you have that? That's, cause that's kind, I mean, I can point to them there, it's just not, doesn't speak as much. Yeah, there we go. Well, except we don't see the rock wall. The rock wall's here, actually, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Rock wall's right here. There's actually a small sinkhole right here.
Yeah.
And this gigantic thing, which it was really much bigger before we did some cleaning on it. So shifting it is, you gotta put it right up against the side of the sinkhole. Because a 40-foot, this is the fence, so it would actually shift this way 15 feet. And that's the one tree I kept right there.
You're suggesting, basically, maybe my orientation's turned around. You're trying to argue that it's to be essentially
In the front yard.
on the other side, essentially to the left of the driveway if you're driving to the street.
Yeah, when you're
Yes,
leaving.
yeah, if you're leaving the property, on your left is where the septic system is, and that's what Bernie's proposing, is that side of the yard is an opportunity for them to put a building on that, in that area. So there are a couple of alternatives, I think, in terms of trying to, again, relax the setback. And that is, you could cheat the building up a little bit and you could make the building a little smaller. And that would help relieve or, make it less intense.
Or a different shape.
Or a different shape. I don't know what that might look like, but if you kind of shrink the back room, move it up a little bit at the same time, you could maybe get some relief on that line.
Right now, it's a square, it's 24 by 24, and then in porch, it makes it 34 by 34.
Correct. That's, the idea was to make like the building smaller, so that's why we have the variance, so we can have a usable space without like having a giant building. 24 is just a two-car garage, which is like putting all the equipment and having some space for the animals. I guess, smaller will be difficult because you just pretty much only the equipment.
Those kind of shit that we have now too.
Yeah. The other shape after that, it's already like a pretty expensive project with just a basic square. So I don't know, maybe we can do a octagon or whatever, but realistically, I don't know if it's gonna be difficult to build or to make it fit in the budget.
I mean, it could come, say, forward a little bit, right? There is enough space to move it that way.
Which we already did. So initially we understood that it was 20 feet because we thought it was a sideline. So we already tried to move it.
Yeah.
We tried to orient it a little bit more. So that's why it's angled as opposed to being straight like we initially planned. And what we measured, when you came outside, there was already a stake. So we already moved 5 feet from the initial stake that we understood was the limit.
You have to move 15 feet to get to 40 feet.
I'm not saying make the whole 15, I'm just saying to get really relax that, the intensity wouldn't be as much as they're asking for, that's all.
Like I said, I'm still not seeing that there's a real hardship here. Part of my research, I was looking into, hardship, and one thing, it was very clear that, personal financial decisions, or personal decisions made by the owners isn't considered hardship. It just doesn't, to my mind, meet the requirements for variance. I understand the desire to keep the trees. I loathe cutting down trees, and wanting to have a beautiful yard. but unfortunately, the state's very clear as to what is allowed for variance, and
Well, what's hardship, what is clear about hardship? Hardship is kind of an interpretation. I mean, we can live without a barn, or people can live without a pool. So it's hard to justify hardship, like I need to have a pool, I need to have a barn, so.
right, exactly. But the point is that, the rules of granting a variance is very clear. And it's, the courts have made it also very clear that, that variances should be granted sparingly, and really should meet the criteria. And again, I'm just not seeing that meets the criteria for a variance. It's unfortunate, but it just doesn't.
Yeah, so you say it's clear, but to me, like the hardship is clear. There's nothing clear about the definition of a hardship. The hardship is if we have two backlines, we have 40 feet setback on half of the property. I mean, we have 3 acres, and half of it is not like we can do anything with this land. Like we cannot build anything on your own property. It's kind of like defeat the purpose to me. I mean, it's,
The irony is the pool's in the setback. The pool's in the setback.
Well, it's
Oh, no,
after
no,
10 years.
So I think the current shed, I think it was already assumed it's a sideline, because I think our current shed is a 20.
Yeah.
And that's been there for 20 something.
If it's been there for 10 years, it's
But
grandfathered.
that's my point, I think
But
someone
that's kind
assumed
of
it
the
was a
point, the fact that
sideline.
But that doesn't make it right.
no, but at the same time,
But that's why we're not the only one making this, the understanding that there was a sideline and the back line was over there. It was already done like 20 or 30 years ago. So that's why going back to what made sense to me when you like as a backline, it's not like a clear cut. That this is obvious.
When they put the shed in and everything before your time,
Yeah.
no one ever goes back there to check on them, or a neighbor can complain about it. That's about all. The building inspector doesn't go around looking for
I
violations.
think our neighbor has one just on the other side.
But even the pool was built at the same time as the house, so I'm guessing they check everything. It's been like,
That was there when they put the house in, isn't it?
They put the pool in the house at the same time, yeah.
at the same time. So I guess it was like all validated at that time.
I like your guinea hens.
Mhm,
They're beautiful birds.
We do too.
So, yeah, I mean, so it's just to go back, the hardship is just, we have half of the property that is not usable because of the wall, backline and setback.
Would this development gone through the planning board?
Yes.
Would they have, at that point, defined the backline?
There you go. That's why it's here. That's why this issue came
There's
up.
no
right?
trace of it.
Yeah, I didn't know whether, it just didn't get into the.
And they typically don't do that.
It wasn't an issue then because the house was far away from all the boundaries.
Yeah.
So they probably didn't bring up the issue.
And there's an implied line anyway, and that's kind of a, intuitively, you kind of think about it. Nobody really declares it per se.
Right. Like I say, I've never seen it declared. It's just obvious.
Right.
There's been no round or hexagons or anything like that.
So in your application, I don't bring that up. On page 8 of 16. Oh, I thought you were gonna put it on the screen.
Oh, I have it on my screen, never mind.
Sorry.
Oops. Correct, that's
Yeah. So that's a rendering where you don't need a variance, correct? Right?
Correct, I mean, if.
Well, actually, I mean, you're actually extra 5 feet over too, right?
If it's a sideline, yes, because that's like 25 feet.
No,
Yeah.
because you're 44 feet off the back.
No.
I think, is that it?
That's 25 and a half.
No, that's off the side.
Oh, the side, you're right.
That's 44 and a half.
That's the,
There's another drawing that says 25 there, or 20 or something like that.
25,
Yeah.
25 is what that
this
is.
was the old.
This is not the one that I don't know.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out where, I was just going back to the materials, going, where did this come from?
I think that's the architect, when he learned that was the backline, that's why he placed it, and after that, we went on the lot, and like, no, that's not gonna be doable, so.
Yeah, that structure there, you don't have the side, covered area overhang all the way around.
No, it's only on two sides.
Two sides.
It's two sides where the L
See it
is.
there?
He already has the overhang,
Oh, okay.
that's what the L is.
But yeah, the idea of the overhang was really not to make that a giant.
Oh, no, I understand I understand what the point of the overhang
Um,
is. I just want,
having it on this side,
Yeah,
but this is an unworkable plan because why?
we could, all the trees in the wall and everything.
that's where it puts it. Yeah, on the property, it puts it over in that spot that's on the photo. It's hard to see on this one.
You wanna bring up the photo again?
Let me slide down just a little bit. Yeah. So this is the line back here. Right, keep me honest. This is the property line back here.
What's this?
So this is 20 feet and it comes this way.
Yeah.
The property line does. So we wouldn't be able to shift it even this way. It would have to be shifted this way.
It's in
On this tree, basically,
the dirt area, whatever.
Correct.
Where that line, where the point of the arrow.
or my grass is not growing.
No.
Yeah, it would.
It's not growing there anyway.
I'd have to take it like onto the tree. I don't know what 15 feet is in this picture.
Well, actually, on this plan, you're 5 feet, you've got a 5-foot buffer. You could actually,
Exactly.
you could shave 5 feet off of that.
And I
Or
think that's
4
where
feet
we,
9 inches.
I think we placed this with a 5-foot buffer, didn't we?
Yes. Well, I mean, roughly, it's not exactly accurate, but it was to get a visual of putting it in front, before this tree and keeping the tree. Otherwise, it's, getting the tree and getting it closer to the single and the wall, which make it harder after that to access it.
How to make it hard access?
Because you have, between the wall, it's just this opening, so you have to orientate the building a different way in order to drive in an equipment. So you see we angled it.
To see the barn door, is that what your point is? We angled it so that you put the barn door here. Is that what you're saying, Cleve?
Yes.
Oh, we didn't.
So you have to
Totally turn it.
change the angle, otherwise you have to drive this way to the building.
I mean, the driveway, the driveway.
I'm comparing the two plans, the angle of the, I mean, the shed's, it's like in a diamond sort of orientation, I guess depending on your
The
perspective.
existing or this one,
The
the suggested placement,
Yeah, it's just,
or this current shed,
no, so,
just the proposed.
yeah, so, I mean, the difference between this one and the one that you've got before us is basically, this is just lower, right?
Yeah,
Someone keep me honest.
yeah, so still respecting the 25 setback on the side that's facing the neighbors. But we'd have to slide it toward the house, basically.
So, but besides losing the tree, which I know is important, by moving it beyond the 40-foot, what other issues are you're facing because in that move? I mean, what are the problems it causes?
I honestly am concerned about the sinkhole.
The grading, right?
The size of that sinkhole was huge. So I'd honestly be concerned about putting that much money over next to a sinkhole. So the closer I get to it, the less comfortable I am there.
So move it this way, but then after that, from the house.
Yeah,
So
it can be the existing
I
building.
take your concern about that sinkhole. I mean, I did walk the property and I saw the thing. But I think once they excavate and put the pad in, they're gonna be able to do enough or add enough material. If you had to move that a little bit closer that way, that you'd have a substantial footing to build your building on. And you'd still be able to keep the same orientation. You may have to remove the tree if that's the case, but if that was the only compromise that you had to make, that might get you where you need to be.
Are you keeping the small shed?
The idea was to move all of that into one
Right.
structure.
You get rid of it?
Yeah.
So it's a wild idea, right?
What's that?
I said I have a wild idea.
Uh-uh.
So you have a shed that's already grandfathered on the property. Just remodel that and keep that space and put the front foot there so it goes over there and you got a new shed in the same spot without having to go through anything.
No, I don't think the building inspector would go with that.
Why? You got a remodel of a shed that's already there. Just change the footprint a little bit. It still gets into all the space it needs.
Remodel it by gut it and then add walls.
Remodel it.
Remove it.
You've seen
and-
worse, right? You've seen a house, you just leave the back wall up and the rest of it goes away and you remodel it, it's in the same place.
Question is the same square foot.
Well, you can get the thing on that square property over there. If you just move that a little bit, you can get that building in that space, just cheat it over a little bit. Huh?
Shed could only be 200 square feet.
Make it a tall one. I told you, it was a little bit wild, but you know, it's an option. Looking at variables here.
I realize it's completely irrelevant, but this is one of those moments where the whole sort of rubric annoys me. Because if this was a pre-existing non-conforming lot, we wouldn't even be here.
That's right.
Right.
But that's,
No, I get it. I find that mildly annoying.
It was a pre-existing non-conforming.
If you had a lot that did not conform to the zoning bylaws as of today, but existed,
yesterday.
essentially existed yesterday,
Yeah.
you wouldn't need a variance. You would only need a special permit, and the standard is much lower.
Right.
But because your lot actually does satisfy the zoning bylaws, which actually in Stow is the minority, you know, by a mile.
It's because of the house, because the shed's outside of this.
Well, that's
count. anything.
That's grandfathered now, so we don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's like the size of the lot and how, and you know, so.
Like my house is the bill was conforming, but it's non-conforming now. And I'll have to make a change. Then this board would still hold you to the setbacks if you can meet the setbacks. But the board has a lot of leeway on what they grant and don't grant. Because there's some lots in the town are 5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the stuff around the lake is really problematic. And
The town changed the
Yeah.
lot size over like my house when it was built was on an acre lot.
Mhm.
But now they've changed that. Now I have a non-conforming lot. I meet all the setbacks, but it's a non-conforming lot because the town said instead of this size, it's supposed to be this
Oh,
size.
so it doesn't meet that.
So that's how you get to the non-conformity.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's an acceptable non-conformity.
And if you made some changes, they could be done with a special permit. Other changes would require a variance, but that's a decision of the board whether a variance is required or not. Because of how severe.
Or in some cases, just a building permit because you're within all the boundaries, right?
Yeah.
You're not violating anything.
We had a house on the lake that was a non-conforming lot. The existing house met all the setback requirements. They tore it down and they wanted to put up a new house that still met all the setback requirements. But we couldn't approve it. We had to go through a special permit to get them to build something that was conforming to all the setbacks. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's the way the law reads. We're not trying to make it hard on you.
It doesn't make it hard on me.
So what do we want to do?
I think
Well, um, so if I'm reading the, right, for variance 4, if I'm reading the temperature of the board correctly, it seems like there are not there's more likely than not 4 votes to grant. Okay, I gotta, that the vibe essentially. Okay, so there's a couple of options. We can vote, and more likely than not, the variance will probably not get granted. At which point, you're of course welcome to appeal. That would be long and expensive, and involve court and all those sorts of things.
you never get it built.
The other options, and Mike, you're going to have to keep me honest here. The other options is we could leave it open, theoretically. And that way you can go back and see if you want to go with this plan or talk to Frank or figure out a way to get it to fit in some other place. And essentially this application could stay open so that because once you make a decision that it's kind of essentially it's done. Theoretically, if you want to, and we'll keep the hearing open. So if there's more evidence or more facts that you want to come before us, you can. Alternatively, like I said, you could try to come up with a different, some other alternatives, talk to Frank, go with this plan or some alternative. And then we can kind of see where we go from there. Are there any other alternatives?
The only other is withdrawing your application.
Right, you could withdraw, and
I think better than a denial. But
yeah, you could withdraw and always come back later.
That's what I think I'd prefer being withdrawn.
So what's the difference between withdrawing and leaving it open?
Well, leaving it open allows them, if they want to,
No, I understand to leave it open. What's the difference between leaving it open or withdrawing it? So if I withdraw it, basically it goes away, it doesn't exist.
Correct,
So
but then if you
then they have
reapply,
to reapply.
they'd have to reapply, pay the fee,
Right,
start the clock.
So help me with what's the difference if they withdraw it, but they still want to go forward, they gotta come back and have another application.
If they need a variance.
No, if they don't need a variance, they don't need to come back.
Right, so
That's right.
if they go back to the drawing board, if we leave this thing open, they go back to the drawing board, and they say, oh, we can do this and we don't need a variance.
Right,
Then what do they do?
then they could ask for it to be withdrawn.
Okay, so then they withdraw and then ask for a special permit.
No,
Oh, no, they don't need one.
I'm just trying to make sure we get this down so they know where they're going.
Yeah, so the reason why you would theoretically keep it open for right now is just because if you withdraw it right today, like now they've got to start all over. If they withdraw it, we could just continue it to the next date, gives them time, and if they want to take another crack at us, they can come back in 2 weeks.
To me, it makes more sense for them to withdraw it. They could come up with a plan that meets the bylaw requirements, the setbacks, and go to Frank and he'll give them a building permit. Simple as that. We're not involved at all in that case.
No, I understand, but
Even if they come back with something requiring a variance, we're gonna come up with the same problem of what.
well, not necessarily. I'm giving them the opportunity that, like, if they have other facts, like, they don't have to convince 4 of us. They don't have to convince all 5.
Right.
There's no downside to keeping it open. I mean, there is if you keep it open for a year.
Well, yeah, and I wasn't implying that. I mean, within a short period of time, I was trying to just decide the difference of, closing it out or keeping it open for another 2 weeks or whatever.
If we keep it open, it has to be continued to a day certain, time certain.
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, okay, that's easy.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, more flexibility, I think, the better. I'm not, in terms of the temperature of the board, I mean, we didn't actually take a vote. I know there were not 4 votes in favor. How many votes are there in favor if we were gonna vote today? I saw 2 oppositions. So that, does that mean there are 3 in favor at the moment?
Yeah, could be.
Probably.
Do you have absentees tonight?
No, there's only just the 5 of us.
Just the 5 of you.
And so at least in terms of the 3 who are favorable, I mean, they're probably going to remain favorable. And the 2 who are unfavorable, maybe if they come back with some adjustments, maybe one of the 2 opponents might be more open to whatever those adjustments are. So yeah, I think it makes sense to keep it open.
I'm certainly open to hearing a change if there's a change and seeing how that fits, but, and again, whatever works for you, I mean, whatever you think is the best approach to resolve the dispute, as quickly as you want.
I mean, I would love to resolve it, but I'm not really understanding what the concerns are. Like, again,
I think,
basement of the building is when it's in your property, like nobody, like we ask all the neighbors, nobody's like has a concern with it. Just because Frank came and made sense that there was the back line. No, we're here like fighting a 40 feet setback. If Frank had a different interpretation that day and said that was the back line was this one, we wouldn't have this discussion. So
that's true.
I mean, we can have like 10 meetings like this, but we're gonna I don't really want to drag it along. I mean, the contractor was ready to start this week.
Oh, I understand.
Us again.
Yeah.
So either way, I mean, we do it or we don't do it. If it's to come back to find another place to do it, I mean, the point of coming here is not to find another placement for it. I mean, we can find like a landscape company that will tell us like where it's the best placement. That's our property. That's what we think makes the most sense. That's what we want the building to be. So yeah, looking at the plan, not living there, you can put it wherever you want, but it's not like a dot on a paper, So
yeah,
it's where we're gonna live. So I don't know if I don't understand the concern. Besides that, just because somebody said it was a 40 feet setback, and we have to comply with it. And we'll try to justify like why we want it there, why we don't want to cut trees. What's more important is like to cut like a bunch of trees on the conservation land, so we're like within the 40 feet setback, or it's to put it where it makes sense for everyone, and it doesn't bother everyone. The neighbors have their property. I mean, it's way further than this 40 feet. So I understand the intent of this 40 feet setback is if you have a property right there, we wouldn't want to have a building just in front of it. I mean, if you came on site, you saw like it's not bothering anybody. So I don't know. I don't know what's the best option. I understand that it sets precedents and all this, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know, within the.
It doesn't really set a precedent, so to be clear, it's no precedence because every case is individual, so there's no relative bearing on any other case.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I understand reading the bylaws and the 30 feet setback and putting it here or there, but that's why the made the most sense for us, and that's why we apply. I mean, that's why we did the initial plan. Then we learned that there was a different interpretation. So we did the whole application, but I mean, I don't think it makes sense to go back and forth and spend like, I mean, months on going back and forth. If it's either, yes, we build it there, or no, and then that way we don't build it and we move on to something else,
If I'm reading the board correctly, in terms of the criteria for a variance, one of the criteria is, that it doesn't go against the community or the abutters, and I think everybody's in agreement there that there's no problem there. Another one is the topography, if it's unusually shaped, and I think everybody agrees that this is an unusually shaped topography. I don't think there's any disagreement there, or is there? No. I think where we.
No, I think he does disagree with you.
Oh, you think that topography? You think the topography is okay? the way it's shaped?
Well, I mean, I think there's enough room to put the barn somewhere else.
Oh, well, I think that gets into the issue of hardship, doesn't it?
No,
But-
No.
No,
It
you think that the topography is.
You have to have three conditions, first of all.
Right.
Soil,
Okay,
shape.
Yeah.
Could be shape of the structure too,
right,
and topology, topography,
Was an
Okay.
or, not an and.
or, anyhow, right,
Right,
or.
one of them.
All, or, and one of the three. Those three conditions don't exist on this site, period. So there could be no hardship.
you don't think even one of those?
No, absolutely not.
So the shape of my lot is not unique.
That has nothing,
The shape does.
but there's no, the shape, this is not an unusual shape, well, there's a lot of them in that shape.
I
mean, it's-
disagree with that. I think it's actually quite unusual.
Okay, but it's not,
I mean, we can disagree. I mean,
it's
Yeah, no,
not,
I was just trying to figure out where the disagree, apparently we do disagree on the topography issue. I mean, I agree with David, I think it is an unusually shaped, but some people obviously feel
It's
different.
unusual, but it does impact what they want to do.
that's right.
And that's what it comes down to. It's an unusual shape, but they have alternatives. If it was such a shape that there was nowhere else to put it, then I would agree.
You know, if it was long and narrow, and they have just a little place there for their house, and they meet all the setback requirements. You've got, 5 acres of land there, they just can't build on it because of the shape.
The fact that they would have to tear down a tree doesn't that get into?
That has no bearing on
Something
the
that
issue.
something to do with soil?
No,
I disagree with that. But then the other issue is hardship, and I know,
Plant
and I
trees
know
in
there's
place.
disagreement there on the hardship issue. And I know to Andy's point, it's true, courts don't necessarily consider, also some kids' decisions have considered finances, so that's a debatable point. But also, if there's other difficulties, like if you have to do something, like tear down trees, I would say that could be interpreted as a hardship as well.
The way I read it is that, they're looking at it has to be, if it affects the long-term value. For example, if, cutting down the trees, may be an issue for the family living now, but is that going to be an issue for every single family, whoever lives there? So they're looking at the broader picture versus, immediate impact to one person versus, if it doesn't affect the value of it. As an example, is what they do affect, if they can't do something, does it affect the value of the property and it doesn't, and it'd be the same impact for every single person who ever owned that house. It was what I was reading in some of the case law.
Yeah.
Based on what I'm reading, I just don't see that, unfortunately, cutting down a tree does that, doesn't meet that criteria. At least that's my opinion as I read it.
New
Well,
England
I think
is
that
trees.
is one issue, and future value is one issue, but I think present situation for present homeowners also comes into an issue of hardship as well.
In New England, you've got to cut down trees to build the first house there. There's no choice. Trees are everywhere. I mean, that's just clearing a property to do that.
But that's
That's
why
irresponsible.
it's already clear where we want to put it. That's
I know
why-
where you want to
I
put
mean,
it.
I don't know, if we ask conservation, I'm sure they'll.
But the
prefer
town
there
has
than
bylaws
cutting the
that
trees.
we're required to stick to, enforce. Okay, simple as that. And you don't really meet the requirements for a variance. There's no hardship, there's no condition that would cause a hardship. You spent money so far, that's not considered. That's something you've chosen to do, and unfortunately, a lot of this stuff probably could have been worked out before then, but,
But the bylaw is not black and white. I'm just like Frank saying it makes sense to me. Reading the bylaws, this is the most further points from the middle of the roundabout. It's the back line, it's the red line.
I mean,
So that's-
theoretically, I'm not gonna tell you what to do. If you wanna take another run at Frank and say, Frank, I think you're wrong with this rear yard line, and I want you to reconsider. I mean, that might solve everything right there. I mean, to
That's
be,
even an option. I didn't know that was an option.
well, I mean, people change their mind. You could say, listen, I've measured it from here. I think you should reconsider it, there's nothing stopping you from doing so.
Have we
No,
seen
it's
Trump
like
that though with our vote though?
What?
We've just voted what the line was.
We could reverse that.
We could, but I mean,
Yeah,
as
Frank,
right
that's a
now, I
different-
mean.
Fine, if they go to Frank and Frank's like, I've thought about it over, like.
We can retract it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm just, don't want that forgotten that we didn't.
No, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
But again, it was not black and white. When I read, like, it made sense to me. It's not like that was obvious.
I get it, you know?
When you
We
made the
wouldn't
decision.
have spent 2 hours talking about what your rear line is, if it was obvious.
Yeah, it's not exactly in line with the conversation I had. It took me 3 weeks to get a hold of him, so I honestly, I've been beating myself up to try to have that conversation. I'm not going there. So I think the amount of time I've already put into this, if this is it, then I think this is it. It's a lot of time we put into this.
No, I understand,
That's
and I'm
so
not
it's
asking, and I'm not asking you to like, you know, reinvent the wheel and go back there again. I'm trying to come up with avenues
I
for,
appreciate that.
like, you know, how to get to yes, and
And the last-
theoretically, that is an avenue, whether or not it is a viable one, you'd have to,
You have to be able to talk to him because,
you know.
but in the last meeting, you mentioned there's you can have two rear lines for different setback. Is that something that you discussed last time? I was saying like there could be a rear line, but there's only one rear line that has the 40 feet setback.
Oh, one of the things I had read is that theoretically, like, one rear yard line could have been designated at one time as like the rear yard line for the purposes of setbacks. But that's usually something, and I think that actually is something that you guys worked with Frank, is going back to the history of the property to figure out, like, did anyone ever, like, and no one ever bothered doing it because, let's be honest, no one probably ever does. So, you know, theoretically, someone could have done that. Ideally, the developer would have done it probably with the town when it was first built. The fact that they didn't do that means it's kind of a moot point.
No.
And by the way, I'm not even saying that we could do it here. It was more me in an attempt to research how have other towns possibly looked at this. That was one thing that had been done. But I think it's kind of a moot point here, considering that when they developed the property and
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Things have a lot has changed in the town as far as bylaws. The bylaw that my house was built to was different than the one a few years people building, and a few years after that, they changed it again. I mean, but it's only been since, I think, 48 is when we had our first bylaw. Before then, damn, I don't know what happened. You just build. And, you know, it's recent, and they've been added to it, setbacks.
So that's why I try to understand the intent of the setback. I understand why there's a setback, but none of the, well, going against any of the intent of the setback by placing the building there.
I think the way I would answer that is to say, yes, you're probably correct that it doesn't go against the intent of the setback, except for the fact that there is a setback, and the intent of the setback really isn't something that, you know, we can't go, well, 40 feet works with that property, but really 35 is better there. It's 40, you know.
The town didn't do that, so.
You know, the town picked 40 for a reason.
Well, that's why we asked for the variance, and that's part of the hardship is that we can't change the setback, so that's hardship. We can.
Well, the hardship, hardship is usually more along the lines of we can't find some other place to put it, or, you know, or if we put it here, all these bad things will happen. So here's what I'm going to suggest, and people can voice their opinion on whether I'm right or wrong. My suggestion is that we can, you know, continue the hearing until the next CBA meeting, which is in 2 weeks, and then during that time period, you guys have a couple of options. Option one is you can make another run at Frank. Whether you think it's a waste of time or not, who knows? But it might be worth, you know. If it's 2 unanswered phone calls or 2 unanswered emails, you know, it's not that much of it. So that's possible. That's one. 2 is there are members of the board here who have expressed concern that there was not a substantial hardship to move the shed to where that other plan was, where there was blue, or essentially to the other side of the driveway. If you can come back to us and explain why those would be hardships, then, you know, possibly members can reconsider kind of where their current position is. And just to be clear, no position is actually set in stone until we actually vote. So just, you know, so you can make another run at it that way. Or you can essentially say, well, there was this other plan, the one that had the blue, you know, lettering on it that showed, I think, a 44 feet, I think, off the back line. And you can just say, you know what, screw it, we're just gonna go there and let's just start building. Well, I mean, you have to get the permit, frankly, like I said. I think those are essentially the 3 options that are, you know, before you, if you want to proceed. Any other thoughts or opinions?
No, I think that expresses it well. I mean, I think you continue, it gives you time to, to look at these options. I would suggest doing that rather than just withdrawing at this point because, you should at least explore them and just see what possibilities there are.
Yeah, I think my opinion is to keep it open. I would encourage the applicant to look at where the building is intended to go now, just to find out if you could just move it in enough that you can get it within the boundary and make a little sacrifice on the front end or the back end or some spot where you can at least preserve what you want, yet also accomplish what you need. That would be a way I would think about trying to solve the problem. I'm not trying to solve it for you, I'm just giving an opinion.
I'll go along with that.
All right.
If you do that, you don't just.
Yeah, that's pretty much, I mean, yeah, we had 2 meetings for like,
I know.
just to get to the point, I mean,
Right.
that's the point of, yeah, was to,
Understand it
Request,
completely. We have great empathy here.
All right. Nothing else on our agenda motion.
I'll make a motion that what?
Do we want, if continuing the motion or continuing the hearing is what the motion is gonna be, do we wanna get confirmation that it's okay with the applicant?
Oh, sorry.
Just because it's ultimately their choice as to whether.
Good point.
That's fine. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be taking the charge. So do you have any objection if we were to continue the hearing and leave the matter open until you kind of figure out next steps? I mean, I'm not gonna try to convince you, but there's no downside to keeping it open. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And like I said, if you can come back and say, you know what, you suggested these 2 spots, I'll tell you exactly why this would be a hardship, because I don't know, whatever. There, we looked and there's 1,800 boulders under the ground there, or we found another sinkhole, or I don't know, demonic plague results. I was joking about that last one.
Or the area, where you could build, it turns out has some archaeological artifact.
But right, yeah.
Okay.
Look at all the
oil there.
Yeah. But seriously, that's like, there needs to be a hardship for why those 2 areas can't work. I think that's where it comes down to.
Planning board, we had some area that had this rock that was sticking up. Oh my, what we had to go through with that stupid rock. This fire.
So, Michael, is there anything on the agenda for the next meeting that we know about, or can we pick a time certain?
There is one application scheduled for 7:15, and then right after that meeting, we had another one came in, so I scheduled that one for 7:30.
Special permits or?
The first one is a special permit, and the second one is also a special permit. And that's for, the first one's related to the Water Resource Protection Overlay District, and the second one is adding a new non-conformity to a non-conforming lot with a conforming structure. And it's a mod.
So you got 7:15 booked, you got 7:30 booked, the next available slot would be 7:45,
Unless
presumably?
you wanna do 7:05.
Or started earlier, we
You
could
could
do
start it
that,
earlier too.
okay.
Is continuing okay?
What's the date?
It is September 8th. It's also a Monday.
Yes, I'm here.
And for what it's worth, if you guys decide, if something happens in the interim, Frank has a come to Jesus moment and changes his mind, you guys decide to go forward with the blue line plan or whatever, you can actually, you don't have to show up. You can contact Michael in advance and say, hey, listen, we decided to do something different. We want to continue it for another X number of, period of time. Or if you're just saying, we don't know what we're going to do yet, but we've got nothing else to say right now. So I don't want you to come down here just to say that. You can just contact him in advance and then and we can take care of it. That being said, if you want to take another run, I welcome you to do so. Okay, sounds all right?
Okay.
All right, I'll take a
Make a
motion.
motion that we continue the hearing until September 8th at 7:05.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion granted. All right, as that's the only agenda item, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:15.
Second.
Motion, second.
Aye.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye.